You all are now tuned into Talkin' Sports with Chris Mesa.
Hey y'all, this is Talkin' Sports with Chris Mesa. This is episode 3 of my podcast, and thank you for watching. I'm real pumped up about this week because the NFL Draft is happening this Thursday, April 28th. So what do you think that means for today's show? That's right, you guessed it. We're going to cover the NFL Draft. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all 32 NFL teams and the first couple of picks that each of them have. I'm going to make what I feel are my predictions, make what I feel is best for each team at the time of their pick, okay? And this is going to be based on who's available in the draft during the time of their pick. And this is also going to be based on improvements that each team needs to make to their roster. I'm not going to try to predict any type of draft pick trade scenarios. That's just going to be too difficult. It's honestly unpredictable. And, I've done the research, and if every NFL team stayed put where they are, at least for the first couple picks that they all have, man, they could all make improvements to their rosters right where they sit. I know all 32 NFL teams sounds like a lot, but, I'm not going to put a whole lot of fluff on this. I'm going to run right through it for you, okay? This is going to be all beef, no veggies, okay? So keep your ears peeled out for your team, and let's get this show started, okay? The NFL Draft is going to kick off this year with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars were god-awful last year. Sorry to the folks in Jacksonville, but it's true. You know it's true. I know it's true. And so let's just deal with that fact. The Jacksonville Jaguars are bad. They have the number 1 pick in the draft this year. So a lot of experts out there have said that Jacksonville is going to take Aiden Hutchinson, the edge rusher from Michigan, with the first-round pick this year. But I'm going to shake things up a little bit, okay? I don't think that's who they're going to take. I don't think that is who they should take. So who do I think they should take? Let's dive into it. So with the first pick of the 2022 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to take Georgia's Travon Walker. So the Jacksonville Jaguars have Josh Allen and Kayvon Chaisson playing edge for their team right now. Josh Allen did a pretty good job, but the name of the game is getting to the quarterback, and it's hard to pass up on such an amazing talent as Travon Walker, with such a high ceiling to grow into. Georgia's Travon Walker is 6'5", 272 pounds, and this man ran a 4.51 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine. What? They don't make these edge rushers like they used to. This guy is a beast, okay? What an athletic specimen. It's hard to pass up that athleticism and size, so that's why I see the Jacksonville Jaguars taking him at number 1. Georgia's defense was a very talented defense. They played a 3-man front, and that didn't offer a lot of tackles for Travon, but he did sack the quarterback 6 times last year for the Georgia Bulldogs, okay? With that type of athleticism, coming in with the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think they can put him in a position to really bust out the seams out there and really start playing well. So that's who I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking at number 1. Let's stick with the Jacksonville Jaguars in their next pick. It's still in round 1, and they have pick 33. And who I have them taking at that pick is Tyler Linderbaum, center from Iowa. Tyler Linderbaum could be the foundation that the Jaguars need. Last season, the Jaguars tried to waive their center Shatley, and they brought him right back. It looks like they didn't have too many options available. Didn't look like they could make any deals happen, so they brought him back to play the season. Bringing in Linderbaum addresses what you want to address at the center position, and you can start building a foundation around that young man. A lot of experts think that Linderbaum can play day 1 as soon as that football's kicked off here in the fall, okay? So that's who I have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking. Let's move on to the next team. So the next team up in the NFL Draft is the Detroit Lions at pick number 2, and I have them taking quarterback Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati. So Detroit acquired Jared Goff in a trade with the Rams for Matt Stafford. Stafford went on to throw for nearly 5,000 yards, and he went on to win the Super Bowl with the Los Angeles Rams. So what did Goff do? Goff achieved 3,200 yards and 19 touchdowns in 14 games. So let's backtrack here and let's see what Stafford did. Stafford never threw under 3,700 yards or less than 20 touchdowns in 14 or more games. It's definitely time for Detroit to swallow their pride and draft a QB at number 2. They really need to give somebody a shot to come in and compete for that position, and I think Desmond Ridder's that guy. The Cincy kid had a strong run this past season until he ran into the Bama monster in the NCAA college football playoffs. One thing about his poor performance to note against Bama is that under all that pressure and against that superior defense, he still protected the football well. He did not throw any interceptions, and he did not give up any fumbles, okay? So Detroit, I think pick number 2, Desmond Ridder. I think he could potentially be the future at quarterback for you. So moving on to Detroit's next pick, they're still in round 1. They have pick 32, and I have them taking edge rusher Boye Mafe. Boye Mafe played at Minnesota. He had 34 tackles last season and 7 sacks. He's another menace to the QB society. He's 6'4" and 265 pounds. And guys, this young man also ran a 4.5 340-yard dash. What are they feeding these edge rushers? I don't know. Please let me know so I can get my sons ready for football here in the future, okay? What Mafe does for the Detroit Lions is he potentially gives the 10-year veteran Michael Brockers a chance to take some snaps off, creating a rotation there at the edge position, and that hopefully allows Brockers to be more productive and turn his motor up every chance he touches the field. So drafting Boye Mafe as soon as this season, the Detroit Lions can create that rotation, like I said, for Brockers and Mafe. That's a good thing for their defense. I think they need to make that happen. Moving on to the next pick. Pick 3 is the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans have a new head coach. They have a massive rebuild ahead of them. This team is god-awful as well. Houston, we have a problem. Lovie Smith's coming into a situation where there's holes all over this roster. You're not going to fix that with this NFL draft, not just this one. So what do you do? What do you do if you're Lovie Smith? I think with the first couple picks, you address what the game of the NFL is today. It's a passing game, so protect the quarterback. You got to get your offensive tackle, and then the next thing you do is you need to put pressure on the other team's quarterback. Get your edge rusher, okay? So at pick 3, I have the Houston Texans taking offensive lineman Ikem Ekwonu from NC State. NC State's Ikem Ekwonu can be the tackle. He can also help out at guard while you have Laramie Tunsil on the roster and playing good football. Ekwonu seems like a slightly better run blocker than Evan Neal. Both of them are on the board, and that's why I think the Houston Texans should take Ikem Ekwonu at pick 3, okay? Okay, sticking with the Texans with their next pick at number 13, I think, again, as I said, you get your edge rusher. So at number 13, I have the Houston Texans taking Jermaine Johnson from Florida State. Jermaine Johnson is probably the 4th or 5th best edge guy on the draft boards and as a prospect. But Jermaine is another big athletic guy at this position. He's 6'4" and 255 pounds. He also ran a 4.58 40-yard dash. He transferred out of Georgia, where he originally committed, but he became very active when he landed on the roster at Florida State with 70 total tackles and 11.5 sacks. Guys, that's very productive, and so I think the Houston Texans, they can't go wrong if they pick Jermaine Johnson right there at number 13. Moving on to the next team. The New York Jets have pick number 4, and at that pick, I think they take edge rusher Aiden Hutchinson if he's still available. Michigan had a good one at Aiden Hutchinson. He's a strong edge rusher. He's a big edge rusher. And being strong and big, this young man is also very quick. His balance is a good thing, so I think he can be a good run stopper and also a good pass rusher for the New York Jets. You don't pass up Aiden Hutchinson if he's still at number 4. So moving on to the New York Jets' next pick, they have pick 10, and I think they take wide receiver George Pickens from the Georgia Bulldogs. There's lots of potential at the top of this wide receiver class, yet so many of them are coming back from major injuries. George Pickens is no exception. He's coming back from an ACL tear, but Pickens has outstanding potential. Quick little story about Pickens. As many of y'all know, if y'all have been watching, I'm a huge Baylor Bear fan. Sick 'em. And so when Baylor and Georgia played in that bowl game a couple years back, I got to see George Pickens up close and personal just rip apart our defense at the wide receiver position. Okay, so George Pickens, I've always been really impressed with him, and I think his ceiling is so high that at pick 10, I think the New York Jets should take him. He's really big. He's got great size. He has 4.4 740 speed. He has reliable hands. And if I were the Jets, I wouldn't look no further for my next wide receiver number 1, George Pickens. The Jets also have 2 second-round picks as well. Maybe they can find a good corner, in the second round. And then, after that, the Jets have a lot of position needs, and so maybe they can just take best on board after that, okay? So let's move on to the next team. Next team up, you got the New York Giants. They have pick 5 and pick 7, okay? At pick 5, I have the New York Giants taking offensive tackle Evan Neal from Alabama. I think the New York Giants need to continue to build on that O-line for Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. Evan Neal can play opposite tackle of Andrew Thomas, or he can play guard if needed. Everybody needs to know that early on at the beginning of his career at Alabama, Evan Neal did play guard, and he played it at a really high level, okay? So Evan Neal, I think the Giants pick a versatile, outstanding offensive lineman as they continue to build for their future here with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. Moving on to the Giants' next pick, at pick 7, I have them taking cornerback Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati. I think the Giants go corner because it drops off some after Cincinnati's Sauce Gardner and LSU's Derek Stingley. Then you can go edge rusher or wide receiver in the second round because they also need that. The Giants also really need linebacker help. They do not need to let the good backers slip away here. There's quite a few holes to fill on this team. But that seems to be the main ones. And so since you have 2 early picks in the NFL draft, Evan Neal at pick 5, Sauce Gardner at pick 7. Moving on to the next team. At pick 6 is the Carolina Panthers. Shout out to Matt Rule. Hang in there, buddy. It sounds like the fans in Carolina are not too happy with you, but you've got an opportunity to make an impactful pick here in the NFL draft this season. And with pick 6 in the NFL draft, I think the Carolina Panthers should take Kayvon Thibodeau, edge rusher. I think the Carolina Panthers need to quit playing around and get ready to get Baker Mayfield. His pocket presence and ability to escape pressure is good with the state of the current O-line there in Carolina. Offensive coordinator Joe Brady has coached a similar QB. He coached Joe Burrow at LSU. So getting Mayfield allows you to get a stud at edge rusher while he's still there. I don't know if the Panthers could wait out the Browns, but I think they should try, and then they get the Browns to pay some of Baker's contract, and then you can pick him up this season, and then you're able to pick up Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, right there, that'd be a huge win for the Carolina Panthers. Don't sleep on this move, Carolina. Next move for the Carolina Panthers, they do not draft again until round 4 of this NFL draft. So who I have them taking is Ohio State's offensive tackle Nicholas Petit-Frere or Kellen Deke from Arizona State. You've got to try to find a decent tackle in round 4 to try to come in and compete for Cam Irving's spot maybe. Petit-Frere might not be there, but Deke should be there, and also who might be there is TCU's Obina Eze. Moving on to the next team. The next team with pick 8 in the NFL draft is the Atlanta Falcons, and I think they need to take wide receiver Garrett Wilson. Atlanta's been the joke of the offseason. The Falcons have been clowned for their wide receiver room this offseason. Their 3 projected starters combined for 770 yards total receiving. I'm going to say that again. Their 3 projected starters combined for 770 yards total receiving between them last year and only 4 touchdowns. Atlanta, how did it get so bad? This is terrible. So Atlanta, you have a good chance at pick 8. Pick up a wide receiver. Go Garrett Wilson. He's only 6 foot, but he high points the ball. He's the most athletic receiver in the draft this year. Don't pass this up, Atlanta. Don't make a mistake. Wide receiver Garrett Wilson. Moving on to Atlanta's next pick at 43. I believe that's the second round. I think they need to go edge rusher. I think they need to take Kentucky's Josh Paschal or Ole Miss's Sam Williams. The Falcons lost Dante Fowler to my Dallas Cowboys, but the edge rusher prospects are plentiful this year. Sam Williams from Ole Miss or Josh Paschal from Kentucky are realistic options for the second round pick here. Sam Williams had 57 tackles and 12.5 sacks on a good Ole Miss defense last year. Sam Williams is being slept on. He also clocked a 4.46 40-yard dash. Sam Williams is a beast, and I think, man, of all the picks in the NFL draft this year, I think Sam Williams is your biggest sleeper of all the prospects in the NFL draft. Whoever gets him, I think they're going to be very glad they made that move. So let's keep it moving. We're moving on to Seattle, who is at pick 9. And I think Seattle Seahawks, they lost Russell Wilson. That was the biggest news this offseason, Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. And so I think they need to take Pitt's quarterback, Kenny Pickett. Drew Lock is currently projected to be the starter on the roster right now. Although the O-line was pretty bad in Denver, Lock did not look too good himself. Seattle, draft a QB. The time is now. It's time to get Pitt's Kenny Pickett or maybe Matt Corral if Pickett is not available. Let's move on to Seattle's next pick, round 2, pick 40. Seattle needs a linebacker as well. Man, they had a big piece of their team, their spirit. This guy is he's all Seattle Seahawks, and he's gone this year. He went to the Los Angeles Rams. I'm sorry, forgive me. It was a big move, but Bobby Wagner has to be replaced now. He's no longer in Seattle. So what do you got to do? Round 2, pick 40. Seattle go out there and pick Georgia's linebacker, Quay Walker. The linebacker class is pretty deep. Get a linebacker here in the second round. Quay Walker is another great player from Georgia who's a huge linebacker with great athleticism and speed. He has the opportunity to replace Bobby Wagner for you. Take a deep look at Quay Walker if he's sitting there, Seattle, okay? Moving on to the next team. The Washington Commanders, the Washington football team, the Washington Redskins. Man, I think they've had more names than they've had wins over the past few years. Sorry, Washington. I just had to throw that out there. But your Washington Commanders, they've got pick 11, and I think they need to get a wide receiver here. That wide receiver is USC's Drake London. Drake London from USC can play number 2 receiver, and the Commanders would have 2 receivers at 6'5" on the field and Terry McLaurin in the slot. That's pretty dangerous, and man, you just really made a huge move that just changes everything. You got a new quarterback that you picked up this offseason in Carson Wentz. He does have a strong arm, and I know you want to throw that football around. So don't pass up on Drake London. Drake's also coming back off a foot injury, but he played really well out there at USC. He's a huge target, and having 2 of those targets for Carson Wentz, man, that's a good thing for the Washington Commanders. So I think they need to make that happen. All right, let's keep it moving for the next pick for the Washington Commanders. The next pick is in round 2, and it's pick 47. And, man, I'm really starting to repeat myself already. But we have another Georgia prospect coming off the board, and that's safety Lewis Cine. Georgia Cine is a physical safety with absurd 4.37 speed. You have Chase Young and Montez Sweat up front for the Washington Commanders on the defense, and Kendall Fuller at corner. Adding Cine really starts to round out this defense slowly but surely. now you're really starting to get scary on defense for the Washington Commanders. I think that's the two moves they need to make with their first couple of picks in the draft. All right, let's move on to the next team. The next team we have is the Minnesota Vikings, and they have pick 12 in the first round of the NFL draft, and I think they should take Georgia's defensive lineman, Jordan Davis. I feel like the cornerback and tackle prospects run deeper in this draft than the defensive line prospects do. The Vikings could use a big man up front to stuff the run. And I tell you what, they don't get bigger than Georgia's Jordan Davis. Davis is 6'6" and 341 pounds. This dude's a monster. He could be real disruptive in the run game, and the Vikings could sure use that since they had one of the worst run defenses in the NFL last year. Moving on to their next pick, it's in round 2. They have pick 46, and I think they should take offensive tackle Tyler Smith from Tulsa. This could be a good pickup for them in the second round. Tyler Smith could potentially be their future tackle. He could help out at guard now. You're adding some good depth to the O-line. You got a good running back in Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins has played well. I'm sure both of those guys will appreciate this. For the Minnesota Vikings, go corner in the third round. Let's move on to the next team. Now you got your Baltimore Ravens up. They're at pick 14. Don't forget that pick 13 was the Houston Texans. So the Baltimore Ravens are now up at pick 14, and I think they should take linebacker Devin Lloyd from Utah. I think the Ravens want to get Patrick Queen back to the will position where he really excelled last year. Devin Lloyd's a big linebacker that could come in right away and play that Sam backer position for you, which allows that move for Patrick Queen to happen. That's a big deal, so I think the Baltimore Ravens need to do whatever they can to make that happen. Devin Lloyd for Utah had 111 tackles and 7 sacks last year. Devin Lloyd was very active and he played very well. Baltimore Ravens, don't swing and miss. Get yourself Devin Lloyd. Moving on to the next pick for Baltimore, they don't pick again until round 2 at pick 45. And I think they should take a center, either Cam Jurgens from Nebraska or Donovan West from Arizona State. Bradley Bozeman is now with Carolina, so Baltimore needs to address the center position. Jurgens or West can come in and grow into the position and eventually play at guard as well until they're ready to take over, if that's necessary, okay? So let's move on to the next team. At pick 15, you have the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles should take defensive lineman Devontae Wyatt from Georgia. Philly's run defense was bad last year. Fletcher Cox is getting up there in age. He signed a 1-year deal and was almost gone last year, okay? So I think Georgia's Devontae Wyatt could be a good pickup. He could be the future for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think they need to make that move. This guy's 304 pounds, and the big guy can move too. So Philly, don't sleep on Devontae Wyatt. Make it happen. Philly's still in the first round with their next pick. They have pick 18, and I think they should take safety Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame. Okay? So I think the Eagles should follow that pickup of Devontae Wyatt with Kyle Hamilton at safety for pick 18. Kyle would be a good pick because although he had a slower 40 time, he's a big safety. He might bring some versatility and be capable of playing safety and will linebacker, maybe that hybrid position. So I think Kyle Hamilton could be a good pickup for the Eagles, okay? Pick 15, Devontae Wyatt. Pick 18, safety, Kyle Hamilton. Moving on to the next team. So now the New Orleans Saints are up with pick 16. I think they should take wide receiver Jameson Williams from Alabama at this pick. Jameson Williams is capable of playing the slot or number 2 receiver for the Saints while they are set at wide receiver 1 right now with Michael Thomas. Okay, it couldn't hurt to add another fast target for Jameis Winston to get the ball to. Jameson Williams does that. Again, like a lot of the top prospects at the wide receiver position, Jameson Williams is coming off an ACL tear. But, man, he's a very talented receiver. You got Michael Thomas. If he still needs a little time to heal, the New Orleans Saints can allow that. And then when he's ready to go, watch out. The New Orleans Saints, their next pick is still in the first round. They have pick 19. And at that pick, I think they should take offensive tackle Charles Cross from Mississippi State. Terron Armstead leaves for the Dolphins. Charles Cross from Mississippi State has strong potential at the tackle position. It's time for the Saints to try to secure their future tackle. Charles Cross could be that for them. Moving on to the next team. Los Angeles Chargers are next up. They have pick 17 in this NFL draft, and I think they should take Trevor Penning, offensive tackle from Northern Iowa. The Chargers are pretty set at skill positions. They have a good team. They can work on improving the O-line and add in depth there and continue to build the trenches for the future. I think that's what this draft pick does. Trevor Penning is one of those diamonds in the rough from Northern Iowa. He took advantage of the Senior Bowl and saw his stock skyrocket after his performance. He's massive at 6'7" and 325 pounds. He has good footwork and pretty good balance. Smaller rushers have a hard time collapsing the edge on him, and his big frame is hard to do a bull rush on. So if I were the Los Angeles Chargers, Trevor Penning could come in and really make this O-line better. I think that's who they should take with their 17th pick in the draft. Let's look at their next draft pick. The Chargers do not draft again until round 3, and that's at pick 79. I think they should take wide receiver Tyquan Thornton from Baylor. Sick 'em. I think you want to add some depth to the wide receiver position. Why not go ahead and take the fastest wide receiver in the NFL draft if he's still there? Tyquan Thornton ran a blazing 4.28 40, and he has good height at 6'3". He's a little skinny for his frame, but he runs pretty good routes and has pretty good hands. You know, being a Baylor fan, I got to see a lot of Tyquan Thornton. Some of his weaknesses are that he disappeared at times at Baylor. Some of the reason is getting handled by good press corners. Some of the other reasons were that Gary Bohannon was not capable of getting the ball downfield enough. Justin Herbert won't have that problem, and Thornton could play slot or wide receiver 2 for the Los Angeles Chargers. Moving on to the next team. Next up is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have pick 20 in the first round of this NFL draft, and I think they need to take quarterback Matt Corral from Ole Miss. Ben Roethlisberger is gone, and Trubisky and Rudolph is where the dust has currently settled at the quarterback position in Pittsburgh. That's not a good thing, okay? Trubisky, he was a swing and a miss for the Chicago Bears. Rudolph, man, he was always projected as a backup, I think. And so, man, the quarterback position is wide open. I think you could draft quarterback Matt Corral. Whether he's ready or not this year, he adds competition to the QB room, and I think he could possibly be the future for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's run through a couple notes real quick of Corral. He threw for 3,300 yards and 20 touchdowns with only 5 interceptions last year. That's pretty good numbers in the SEC. He's also a very capable runner. He ran for 614 yards and 11 touchdowns on the ground. Let's look at the next pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The next pick that they have is in round 2. They have pick 52. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers should go wide receiver with Sky Moore. I debated between Sky Moore and John Metsy. You've got Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool out there in Pittsburgh. You're in pretty good shape, but it would be nice to get a slot receiver to contribute this year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, Sky Moore can do that. I'm not sure how Mechie is recovering from his ACL tear, so I think that's why you go with the shifty Sky Moore. I think you go with reliability here. So let's move on to the next team. Yeah, we're moving and grooving now, baby. All right now, so with the 21st pick of the NFL draft this season, you have the New England Patriots. Man, real quick, hold up, pump the brakes, skirt. Let's pump the brakes, okay? Let's talk about the New England Patriots and Tom Brady, okay? There's been so much talk that, Brady was, he was a system quarterback under Belichick and he wouldn't do good anywhere else. Well, I wanted to take a moment to reflect on that in the middle of this show, okay? Tom Brady went off to the Buccaneers, right? He's already won a Super Bowl. Well, now that we're on the New England Patriots in the NFL draft, man, the Patriots and Belichick they've really struggled to find an identity. And, they're just looking for pieces to try to find ways to win again, right? I just wanted to point that out, okay? So let's dive into this next pick, okay? Pick 21 in round 1. The New England Patriots should take cornerback Kaiir Elam. J.C. Jackson is gone, so Florida's Kaiir Elam makes sense. He seems to make more sense than Clemson's Andrew Booth. Both are good corners, but Elam is a little bit bigger and a little bit more aggressive. He gave up less catches than Booth last year, okay? So that's the reason why I think the New England Patriots should take Kaiir Elam, okay? So let's move on to the next pick. Round 2, pick 54 for the New England Patriots. I have them either taking center Alec Lindstrom or center Luke Fortner. Either way, they need to take a center here in the second round. Ted Karras left town for the Cincinnati Bengals, so you have to work on replacing him. I think you can do that with all ACC center Alec Lindstrom from Boston College or Luke Fortner from Kentucky. All right, guys, let's put the pedal to the metal. Let's keep moving. Next up is the Green Bay Packers in the NFL draft. They have pick 22 in round 1, and I think they're going to go wide receiver, and that's Ohio State wide receiver Chris Olave. Chris Olave is a fast, shifty receiver option for the Packers. The Packers had a huge loss in Davante Adams. How do you replace a 1,500-yard receiver like Davante Adams? I think the Green Bay Packers have to start by doing that by committee, okay? Olave's a great receiver. He could come in and be a slot receiver for now, and he could eventually play any receiver position. Him and Garrett Wilson were both pretty much 1,000-yard receivers at Ohio State this year and also combining for 25 touchdowns this season. Olave is probably some good relief for the veteran Randall Cobb, who the Packers signed to come back. Honestly, I don't know the future there, but you probably brought him back in good faith. You want him to retire as a Packer probably, and so that's probably why Randall Cobb is back. But let's be honest, he's seriously projected as a starter right now. If you bring Chris Olave in, I think that's some relief for Cobb and the Packers. I think you could have a rotation in the slot position with those two receivers. Moving on to the Packers' next pick. Still in round 1, they have pick 28, and I think they're going to take Purdue's George Karlaftis off the edge. George Karlaftis is another outstanding edge option in this year's draft. As I said, they are very plentiful this year. George had 39 total tackles and 4.5 sacks when he was at Purdue just this last season. George is a big guy with good athleticism that offers you balance at the edge. Moving on to the next team, we have the Arizona Cardinals. They've got pick 23 in round 1 of the draft, and I think they go wide receiver. I think they go Treylon Burks from Arkansas. The Cardinals have a good receiving core already. They really do, but the future of A.J. Green is uncertain as he only agreed to 1 more year with the Cardinals. Matter of fact, they almost lost him this year, so it's almost a miracle that A.J. Green is back with them this year, but what's next, right? So I think the Arizona Cardinals should pick Treylon Burks. So Burks is from Arkansas. He can come in and play across from Hopkins if Green leaves in 2023. So I think that's, the Arizona Cardinals sitting there and thinking about their future. Moving on to their next pick, they pick again in round 2, pick 55, and I think they're going to take cornerback Andrew Booth from Clemson. Andrew Booth can probably come in and really shore up the left corner spot and just tighten up an already good secondary that consists of Jeff Gladney, Budda Baker, and Byron Murphy. All right, so let's move on to my team. How about them Dallas Cowboys, baby? Let's talk about them for a second. Dallas has round 1, pick 24, and I think they need to go offensive guard, Texas A&M, Kenyon Green. I say this because the Cowboys this offseason lost La'el Collins to the Bengals and Connor Williams to the Dolphins. That was both of our starting guards. The Cowboys just couldn't afford Collins, and I think the Cowboys were fine letting Connor Williams go and try to go a different direction there. But either way, you still have to replace both guards. I think offensive guard Kenyon Green can do that. and I think he's the man if he's available. Moving on to the next pick for the Dallas Cowboys. They pick again in round 2, pick 56, and I think they need to take edge rusher Nick Bonito. The Cowboys have DeMarcus Lawrence and Dante Fowler, but the Cowboys do need depth. And Dante Fowler is not going to be around forever. The Cowboys picked him up from the Atlanta Falcons this offseason. He's a good player, but just once again, he won't be around forever. So I think you have to address that because Randy Gregory is now gone. That's the whole reason the Cowboys went out and picked up Fowler. So in round 2 of the draft, I think you need to address that. Oklahoma's Nick Bonito is a good fit. He's really fast off the edge. Jabril Cox, he can come off the edge, but if Vander Esch goes down again, Vander Esch is one of the Cowboys' middle linebackers, and he's had injury issues. If he happens to go down again, then Jabril Cox is forced to play middle linebacker, and then you still need some help at the edge position. So I think that's where Nick Bonito comes in. Let's move on to the next team. The Buffalo Bills are now up, and they have pick 25 in round 1. And I think the Buffalo Bills need to go cornerback Trent McDuffie from Washington. The Bills have a really good squad. They're a deep playoff team, Super Bowl contenders potentially. But if you pick up Trent McDuffie from Washington, he's a competitive corner. You can probably get him playing in the slot pretty quickly this season. So let's move on to the Bills' next pick. They pick again in round 2, pick 57. And I think they need to take offensive guard Joshua Ezeudu. What the Bills do with that pick is they add depth on the O-line. North Carolina's Joshua Ezeudu is a big guard that's a good pass protector. And you bring in another pass protector for your coveted Josh Allen there in Buffalo. Next pick, next team, we have the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans have pick 26, and I think the Tennessee Titans need to go quarterback with North Carolina's Sam Howell. The Titans are Tannehill or bust right now, honestly. And let's be honest, he didn't blow the league out the water on paper last year. So bringing in North Carolina's Sam Howell, that brings a lot of potential to the position in Tennessee. Sam Howell dropped off in his passing last year in 2021, but once you look at the stats and look at the film, you realize pretty quickly that it's because he ran for over 800 yards as well. He wouldn't need his legs as much in Tennessee, though, as long as they continue to keep building up that O-line that they have over there. So let's move on to the next pick for Tennessee. They do not pick again until round 3 of the draft, and they have pick 90, so they pick late in the draft in that round. But I think if available, I think the Tennessee Titans need to pick up wide receiver John Mechie from Alabama. Nick Westbrook-Akeen was somewhat average in the slot for the Titans with 476 yards receiving last year. I think the Titans could afford to upgrade that position and take a chance on Mechie, who was Mr. Reliable for Alabama with over 1,100 yards receiving last year. But again, at the wide receiver position in this year's NFL draft, John Mechie is coming off an ACL injury. But here in Tennessee with the Titans, they can afford to give John Mechie time to get going, heal up fully, and he could possibly do wonders for you in the slot there in Tennessee. Okay, so let's move on to the next part of the draft. Pick 27 in the first round goes to Tampa Bay, and I think with that pick, they need to take DeMarvin Leal, defensive lineman from Texas A&M. Some of the corners that the Bucs wanted are going to be gone by the time that the Buccaneers get to take their pick. They also want D-line. They also need D-line, and a great one is still available in DeMarvin Leal. His versatility seems to be the most exciting thing if I was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because DeMarvin Leal can play several different positions up front. He had a productive year at Texas A&M. He had 58 tackles and 8.5 sacks. Moving on to Tampa's next pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick again in round 2, pick 60. and I have them taking running back James Cook. Ronald Jones is now gone from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. James Cook brings in some versatility out the backfield. 728 yards rushing, 284 yards receiving for Georgia last year, and 11 total touchdowns is what James Cook produced. Let's keep in mind that James Cook produced those numbers out of a very talented backfield for Georgia. So Tampa Bay should keep a real close eye on him. And, man, do not let him slip away if he's available at pick 60 for you, Tampa Bay. Keeping this thing moving along. Hope you're enjoying the show. Again, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate everybody. Hey, don't forget after this video, if you like the information that I've been given, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, okay? So let's keep this thing moving. Next up is the Kansas City Chiefs. They have pick 28 in round 1, and the Kansas City Chiefs need to take a wide receiver. I think they take Cincinnati's Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is a 6'3" wide receiver who played at Cincinnati. He had 884 yards and 8 touchdowns last season. The biggest takeaway from Alec Pierce in his season last season is that he averaged 17 yards per catch. Juju Smith-Schuster is going to hold down the slot position for the Kansas City Chiefs, and you hope Josh Gordon delivers, but just in case that he's not able to step in and play, if y'all don't know, Josh Gordon has struggled mightily staying on the field throughout his NFL career. I think he's been suspended 6, 7, 8 times while he's been in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs took a gamble. He's an extremely talented receiver, but he can't stay out of trouble. So if that's the case and things go downhill with Josh Gordon, the Kansas City Chiefs can pick Alec Pierce, and that would be a good pickup for them. So turn right back around. Whoop, spin it around. The Kansas City Chiefs have pick 29, and I think they need to pick up Arnold Ebiketie, edge rusher from Penn State. He's a transfer from Temple. That's where he originally started his college career, and he proved the doubters wrong. Arnold Ebiketie came in at Penn State and had an incredible season. He had 62 tackles and 9.5 sacks. So that could be a good pickup for the Kansas City Chiefs if Arnold Ebiketie can come in and produce the same way in the NFL. Moving on to the next team, you have the Super Bowl runner-ups, Cincinnati Bengals. They have pick 31 in round 1 of this draft, and I think they need to take Oklahoma's Perion Winfrey. He's a defensive lineman. Winfrey really caught eyes in the Senior Bowl when he had 3 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. He won the defensive MVP honors of the Senior Bowl. The Bengals play a 4-man front, and Winfrey can play both nose tackle and defensive tackle. He did so at Oklahoma. Moving on to the next pick for the Cincinnati Bengals, they have round 2, pick 63. And I like them taking one of my Baylor Bear players, Sikkim, Jalen Petrie, a defensive back. Petrie can play all over the field and could be a good utility player for Cincinnati. Not to mention he could be good in special teams coverage too. He can play the hybrid position. He could play safety. He's a physical player and he breaks well on the football. Jalen Petrie is a strong tackler and he's great in run support. Again, y'all know by now I'm a Baylor fan, and Petrie was Baylor's lone commit that stayed in transition from the Browse turmoil. I'm really happy to see this young man stick it out, shine in college, and now see him have this opportunity on the next level in the NFL. It's really an amazing story. Maybe I'll touch up on it more later in another podcast. But good luck, Jalen Petrie. Sick 'em, buddy, okay? Go get him. All right, we're going to keep the wheels turning here. Next is the Chicago Bears. They have round 2, pick 39. So the Chicago Bears, I think they should take Kyler Gordon. Kyler Gordon is a cornerback from the Washington Huskies. He can probably come in and play somewhere in the secondary for the Chicago Bears right away. Kyler checked in with 45 total tackles last season and 2 interceptions for the Washington Huskies. The next pick for the Chicago Bears is round 2 again, pick 48. I think they have a good chance to come in and take wide receiver Christian Watson. Christian Watson is another diamond in the rough from North Dakota State. He has the size at 6'4", and he has the speed at 4.36. That's an amazing 40 time for that size. Chicago historically has liked big body receivers, and Christian Watson really fits the mold for this organization. Before we move on, how about North Dakota State really jumping on the scene these past few seasons and really dropping NFL players all over the place? Shout out to North Dakota State. Go Bison. Okay, so moving on again, the next team up is the Indianapolis Colts. They have round 2, pick 42, and I think they need to take Bernhard Raimann from Central Michigan. He's an offensive tackle. Raimann is a good addition to the O-line. He's got a big frame and he maintains good balance. He plays strong and he run blocks well too. He was a man amongst boys there at Central Michigan. His game should translate here to the NFL, and he should be a pretty good lineman in the NFL, and he should be a good blocker for Matt Ryan, who just arrived in Indianapolis. Sorry to speak on Matt Ryan, but round 2, pick 73, I think the Indianapolis Colts need to go ahead and start thinking about their future. Maybe take a chance on Carson Strong, QB from Nevada. Drafting a prospect like Carson Strong could be a good move for the Colts with an extra pick in the second round. Strong lit it up at Nevada and threw for over 4,100 yards and 36 touchdowns. So I think, the Indianapolis Colts, you got that second pick in the second round. Why not give Carson Strong a chance? Moving on, let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. They're the next team up. They have the next pick in round 2 at pick 44. I think they need to take Travis Jones, defensive tackle, in this position. The Browns need work on the D-line, and they need to find a big boy to take up space. Look no further than Travis Jones at 6'5" and 330 pounds. Big boy is tipping that scale, y'all. Not only is he big, but he was very productive at UConn last year. At 330 pounds, this big boy had 48 tackles and 4.5 sacks on the season. So Cleveland, I think y'all need to take a gamble on Travis Jones. He may be the defensive tackle needs that y'all are looking for. Moving on to the next pick for the Cleveland Browns. They don't pick again until round 3, pick 78. And I think they need to take edge rusher Josh Paschal from Kentucky. If Paschal is still available, then the Browns should grab him. He should complement Myles Garrett very well. At 6'3" and 280 pounds, he had 52 tackles and 5 sacks for Kentucky last season. Let's not pump the brakes, y'all. Let's keep this bad boy moving. Hope y'all are having a good time, like I said. Hope you're enjoying the show. Hope you like what I think each team can do. So moving on, we have the Denver Broncos. How about them Rocky Mountain boys out there in Denver? They're next up here. They have pick 64 in round 2, and I think they need to take tight end Trey McBride. Trey McBride is from Colorado State. He's a good blocker, and not to mention that he went for over 1,100 yards receiving this past season. Why not give Russell Wilson another target, right? Okay, so let's move on to the next pick for the Denver Broncos. Round 3, pick 75. I think they need to go linebacker from LSU, Damone Clark. Denver has blazing speed at the outside backer / edge positions, but what they need is somebody to come in and anchor the middle, and Damone Clark is a big backer who was 3rd in the nation with tackles while at LSU. So I think Damone Clark is where you need to look at if you're looking for a big back to come in and fill a need there for you, Denver. So Denver, if Damone Clark is there in the 3rd round, don't sleep on it, take it, okay? Moving on to the next team. Next team is Denver's rival, the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders have round 3, pick 86, and I think they need to take defensive lineman Phildarian Mathis. The Raiders don't have any high picks in the draft this year. They gave them all up for Devontae Adams. They have the roster to do that, though. I think it was a great move for them to go out and get Devontae Adams. So what they can do in the draft this season is they can add a sleeper in Phildarian Mathis to help plug holes up front. Mathis did well at Bama with 53 tackles and 9 sacks last year. The Raiders would be happy if they could get him to produce similarly for them when they draft him. Let's move on to the Raiders' next pick. They have round 4, pick 126, and I think they need to go offensive tackle with Rasheed Walker. Rasheed Walker is from Penn State. He's probably a project for the Las Vegas Raiders, but he could add some depth for the Raiders at tackle or guard. Okay. Moving on, y'all, and next up is the Miami Dolphins. Guys, we're almost through, so hang in there just a bit for me. I've only got a few more teams left, and if your team has still not been mentioned, man, in the next 3 teams, we're going to cover that. So the Miami Dolphins are up next. They had round 3, pick 102. I think they need to go center Cam Jurgens. Donovan West seems a little bit more versatile than Jurgens does from Nebraska. So Baltimore should take West, when they have a chance to. That leaves Jurgens the possibility to be available for Miami as they continue to build their O-line and as they continue to get more protection for Tua over there, okay? Next pick for the Miami Dolphins is round 4, pick 125, and I think they need to go after linebacker Brian Asamoah. Here in round 4, I think Brian Asamoah could be a steal. If Asamoah is still available, this is a sleeper pick for Miami. Asamoah is an athletic backer that could play hybrid or weak side for them. Asamoah had 80 tackles for OU last season. Time to move on to the next team. Got to take a second to give them their flowers. Bow at greatness, right? The Los Angeles Rams, your Super Bowl champs. They're going to start the draft this year at round 3, pick 104, and I think they need to take D'Angelo Malone, edge rusher. D'Angelo Malone measures up to many of the other edge rushers going heavy in this draft. He was Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year for Western Kentucky. He had a massive 94 tackles and 8 sacks last season. So again, in the group of 5 scheme of things, D'Angelo Malone was a man amongst boys. So he stood out there, and I think the Los Angeles Rams could do a good job by taking him in the 3rd round. The next pick for the Los Angeles Rams, your previous Super Bowl champs, is round 4, pick 142, and I think they need to take Tariq Woolen, cornerback. Tariq Woolen played at UTSA, and the appealing thing about him is that he's 6'4", and this guy ran a 4.2 640. The Rams could afford to work on him, and he can possibly help in the return game too. Seems like a decent gamble in round 4 for the Los Angeles Rams. Tariq Woolen, okay? So let's move on to the next team. You have the San Francisco 49ers. They have a pick in round 2, pick 61, and I think the San Francisco 49ers need to take Roger McCreary. He's a cornerback from Auburn. The Niners need to work on their secondary and pick up an aggressive corner like McCreary. McCreary had a good season at Auburn with 49 tackles and 2 picks. He's solid at both run support and his coverage game. So the 49ers have a pretty good squad. If they can keep Debo, that's been a lot of talk going on, a lot of chatter going on is what's Debo Samuel going to do. If the San Francisco 49ers can figure out a way to hold on to him, then they still have a good football team, and adding Roger McCreary to the defense improves the defense that could improve in the secondary. Moving on to the next pick, they have round 3, pick 93, and I think the 49ers need to take Logan Hall, edge rusher. Logan Hall had 47 tackles and 6 sacks at Houston. Him and Dee Ford could create a nice rotation there in San Francisco. And oh my goodness, I don't know if y'all can believe it or not. Hopefully I didn't put y'all to sleep. That is all 32 NFL football teams and the first couple picks that each of them have. Hope y'all have enjoyed the information with the draft coming up here real soon on Thursday. Let's see what happens. Let's see if any of this transpires. If it does, I think, all the teams could do good with the picks that I have projected for them. I really do. I think they add depth. I think they add for a lot of teams, you add immediate help to your team. So that's how I see the 2022 NFL Draft going down this year, okay? So let's move it on. Let's get ready to wrap up this show. I don't have much more for y'all. That was the beef of my show for y'all this week. But I did want to give y'all an NBA playoffs update. Round one is beginning to really shape up and wrap up. The Celtics swept the Nets 4-0. The Grizzlies and T-Wolves are tied up 2-2. The Bucks lead the Bulls 3-1. Warriors lead the Nuggets 3-1. Heat lead the Hawks 3-1. The Suns and Pelicans are tied up 2-2. The 76ers lead the Raptors 3-2. At the time of recording, the Mavs are blowing out the Jazz and will go up 3-2. So how are my predictions playing out so far? I had the Celtics taking care of business. They did. I have the Bucks moving on, the Heat moving on, the Warriors moving on. I had the Suns moving on, and then I also have the last two, the 76ers and Mavs, moving on. Of course, I wasn't counting on Booker getting hurt and being out with that hamstring injury, but of course that took place. And as frustrating as it is, the Suns should still be handling the Pelicans, but all of the other picks I made are looking good. The next round should be a little bit more interesting. There's not much going on in college football recruiting. The national champs Georgia received a commit from 4-star Justin Rhett from the prestigious Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas, and Georgia has moved up to number 3 in the ranks. Tennessee, they also landed an edge rusher in Caleb Herring, the number 76th overall recruit in the nation. He's going to stay home in Tennessee. Good pickup for Tennessee. That's all I have for college football recruiting. That's all I have for my show this week. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate everybody, listening to me, giving me a chance to speak and talk to y'all about, things that I love and things that y'all love. So I hope y'all have appreciated the show this week. Next week, I'll probably take some time to dissect the NFL draft, see how some of this all played out, see if there was any surprises that we can talk about. So there may be some juicy stuff to talk about next week as far as the NFL draft is concerned. So that's it, guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope y'all have a good day. I hope y'all have a good week. And I hope y'all come back and watch me next week, okay? This is Talking Sports with Chris Meza. I appreciate y'all. That's it. God bless you. Take care. And we're out. If you got the bread, you can have a time. I got a fever and I can't sit still. Only one thing's gonna save me now. Just got to get up.